For decades, buying a piece of hardware was one of the simplest transactions you could make. You walked into a store, paid once, and the device was yours. No ongoing relationship, no continued payments, just ownership. Whether it was a phone, a laptop, or even a car, the model was clear and familiar. But in 2026, that model is starting to shift in a noticeable way. More companies are moving towards something that used to feel unusual, even uncomfortable: subscription hardware. Instead of paying a large amount upfront, you pay monthly, and instead of fully owning the device, you're essentially paying for continued access to it. At first, it might sound like a simple pricing change, but in reality, it's a much bigger transformation in how products are sold, how companies make money, and how customers interact with technology over time. The biggest reason behind this shift comes down to one word: predictability. When companies sell hardware the traditional way, revenue is inconsistent. It depends on how many units they can sell in a given period. If demand slows, revenue drops. If upgrades slow down, growth becomes harder to maintain. Subscriptions solve that problem. Instead of one-time payments, companies get steady, recurring income. That makes revenue more stable, easier to forecast, and less dependent on constant new sales. And in a world where markets are uncertain, that kind of stability is incredibly valuable. But predictable revenue is only part of the equation. What companies really care about is how much each customer is worth over time. When you buy a device outright, your spending is capped. You pay once, and that's it. But with a subscription, payments continue over months or years. Individually, they feel smaller, but over time, they often add up to more than the original cost. And because those payments are spread out, they feel easier to manage. That psychological difference is important. A large upfront cost feels heavy, even if it's a good deal. A smaller monthly payment feels lighter, even if the total is higher. And that's one of the reasons subscriptions are so effective. Another major driver behind this shift is upgrade cycles. Tech companies want users to stay on the latest version of their products. New devices drive engagement, improve performance, and keep users within the ecosystem. But convincing people to spend a large amount every year or two is difficult. Subscriptions remove that barrier. Instead of making a big decision every few years, users are already paying. Upgrades can be built into the plan, making the transition feel seamless. You don't buy a new phone, you simply move to the next version as part of your subscription. That keeps users up to date and keeps the company's ecosystem active. There's also a deeper layer to this that doesn't get talked about as much: control. When you own a device, you control it completely. You decide how long to keep it, when to replace it, and how to use it. But with subscription models, that balance shifts slightly. Companies remain connected to the product even after it's in your hands. They can bundle services, manage upgrades, and in some cases control access to certain features over time. The device is no longer just a standalone product, it becomes part of an ongoing system, and that system keeps the customer engaged. Another reason subscription hardware is becoming more common is because of how devices themselves are evolving. Technology is no longer isolated. Your phone connects to your watch, your earbuds, your apps, your cloud storage, and your data. The real value is not just in the hardware, it's in the entire ecosystem around it. Subscriptions allow companies to package all of that together. Instead of selling you a device, they sell you an experience: hardware, software, and services bundled into one continuous offering. That makes the product feel more complete, but it also keeps you tied into the system over time. From a customer perspective, there are clear advantages. The most obvious one is accessibility. Instead of paying a large amount upfront, you spread the cost over time. That makes high-end devices more affordable to a wider group of people. It also simplifies upgrades and maintenance. Everything is built into one predictable payment, which can feel more convenient than managing multiple purchases and decisions. But there's a trade-off. Over time, the total cost is often higher. It just doesn't feel that way because the payments are distributed. And when you have multiple subscriptions for devices, software, entertainment, and services, those monthly costs can start to add up quickly. That's where some of the resistance comes in. Many people are still uncomfortable with the idea of paying indefinitely for something they used to own outright. It can feel like a loss of control, or like being locked into a system that never fully belongs to you. And that perception matters, because if customers feel like they're losing more than they're gaining, they push back. At the same time, there's a broader cultural shift happening that supports this model. Ownership is becoming less important than access. We've already seen this with streaming services replacing physical media, and with ride-sharing reducing the need for car ownership in some areas. People are getting used to the idea that they don't need to own something permanently, they just need reliable access to it. Hardware is now following that same pattern. Another important factor is retention. Subscriptions naturally keep customers connected to a product for longer periods of time. Canceling requires a decision, and many people delay that decision. As a result, relationships between companies and customers last longer, and longer relationships are more valuable. Companies can offer updates, introduce new features, and build deeper engagement over time. That creates a cycle where the product improves while the customer remains within the ecosystem. But this shift isn't guaranteed to succeed everywhere. If companies push too aggressively, locking too many features behind paywalls or making subscriptions feel unavoidable, customers will resist. People still value ownership, especially for expensive products, so the success of subscription hardware depends on balance. It has to feel like convenience, not control. It has to feel like access, not restriction. And it has to offer real value over time, not just a different way to pay. Because in the end, this isn't just about changing pricing models. It's about redefining what it means to own technology. Moving from products you buy once to systems you stay connected to. And that's why subscription hardware is becoming a real thing. Not because it's a trend, but because it aligns with how both businesses and consumers are starting to think about the future. A future where access matters more than ownership, and where the relationship doesn't end after the sale.